Again, good morning to everybody. Welcome to today's Issues Forum. I'm Carl Blackstone, President and CEO of the Columbia Chamber, and we're delighted that you are joining us today. We are pleased to have, we're pleased to have a lot of people here today, quite frankly. We've got an esteemed panel, but right now we had over 529 people register for this meeting this morning, and unfortunately, Zoom keeps it at 500. So there are going to be 29 people that are feeling like the odd man out today. Feel free to jump on Facebook Live. And we will also have this dialogue recorded and on our website this afternoon for those that can't stay for the whole hour. But with that, let me start off by welcoming our panel today. As we have been dealing with COVID for the last 4 months, one of the biggest issues that we have going forward as a community is, one, how do we restart the economy? How do we get our lives back to the new normal, whatever that may be? And quite frankly, an anchor of that is deciding what we should do with our children, and how we educate them and get them to a place of normalcy as well. And so to that end, we've invited the superintendents for the 3 largest school districts in our region to join us today. So thank you all very much for joining us. We got Dr. Craig Witherspoon with Richland One, Dr. Greg Little with Lexington One, and we are delighted to have Dr. James Ann Sheely with us. And she's not Baron Davis. Baron is unfortunately under the weather, but we are delighted, Dr. Sheely, that you came and joined us. I guess he threw you under the bus, but we're excited that you are here. Let me start off with, we all know the issues, and we're going to talk about those in a little bit, but let's just talk about the state of your district right now, things that you've gone through, how you felt the transition was last spring, and add to that where you are on the decision of what to do in the fall. And that's a big lump sum question, but let's just get it out there for everybody. And Dr. Witherspoon, you ready to take the lead, or you want? Yeah, let's start with Dr. Witherspoon and just give an update where you are, and then we can go into some questions.
Just get the dog.
Oh, one last little bit of housekeeping. We have taken a bunch of questions via email. There is a chat box at the bottom everybody should know about. Feel free to, if you have a question. With 500 people, we're going to be limited on the number of questions we can get to, but we will do the best we can to get those answered to you. If y'all would do me a favor, if you will all mute your phones except the participants, that'll help us very much. If you wouldn't mind, that would be great. The other thing is there's also info@columbiachamber.com. If you cannot Zoom in, but you're listening via telephone, feel free to send us an email, info@columbiachamber.com. Again, sorry about that. Dr. Witherspoon, I'll turn it over to the state of where you are.
Sure, and good morning, everybody, and thanks for having this. I'm glad to be a part. Just to go back, we've been looking at this certainly from various aspects since school has closed, actually before school closed, just to see what guidance the CDC has put out, what guidance DHEC has put out, certainly the state Accelerated Ed committee and so forth. And we've had over 100 people in various teams looking at various aspects of instruction, of looking at what other countries, other states, certainly here in the Midlands, are doing. I certainly appreciate my colleagues in the Midlands. We have a monthly regular meeting that we have, but certainly the last month or so, we've been if not talking with each other, but certainly as a group, probably every other week or weekly in some aspect. So again, trying to take advantage of some collective wisdom, if you will, in terms of what folks are looking at and doing. And, we all, feel like, yes, getting kids back and all of that, but that's the easy part. How do you do that? What does that look like? How do you take into account all of the information that's coming from CDC, from DHEC, and so forth? Getting feedback from parents, from teachers, from staff, all of those things, getting feedback from how things went last spring. We were open on a Friday, and on Monday we were closed and thrust into a new form of instructional delivery and engagement. What lessons did we learn from that? What did we do differently in terms of professional development, in terms of training? Who had internet access? Who didn't? What impact that made? We distributed over 29,000 learning packets because some of our families did not have internet access. And all of that going into what do we do in the fall, and how does that impact what lessons learned, what things we need to tweak and do differently, and how do we get there? So, you know, I appreciate my colleagues and everybody that has certainly given us feedback, and we looked at what do we do. We got over 6,000 free response comments from some surveys we did as we finished out the year, and we're in the process now of surveying again our parents, our teachers, and to see, you know, again, what their thoughts are in terms of how we move forward in the fall. So it's huge, and it impacts everything that we do, every aspect, certainly from what goes on day to day in the classroom or learning to our specialty programs and CADE and STEM and fine arts and all of those things. So it's a Herculean task, and just continuing to sort through the information and trying to make the best decision we can moving forward.
Great. Thank you very, very much. Dr. Little, how about how's Lexington One, and what's y'all's process?
Well, I would like to echo Dr. Witherspoon and thank you for allowing us to be a part of this call. We've been hard at work, obviously, for the majority of the summer, and just trying to make sure that we have a plan in place. I think one of our greatest challenges is that things seem to be changing by the minute. So we had a plan that we presented to our board and our community on June 23rd. 2 days later, the American Academy of Pediatrics released a report. And so then we're revamping and rethinking about what we're going to do and getting good feedback on that. The thing, I think our biggest, our goal is just to continue to be flexible and nimble and agile. Those are really the three words that we've used a lot, because as Dr. Witherspoon says, it's a balancing act, all these different things. And you know, one thing that we spend a lot of time talking about as well is the health and safety of not only our children, but the health and safety of the adults in the building. And we have to look at all of those factors and bring all of those factors to bear, because I would argue that if you have a school that is missing lots of teachers, then face-to-face instruction is not nearly as would be nearly as good as a well-planned virtual instruction experience. And so we have to look at all of those things under one umbrella. And we also recognize, listen, we all want to be back to school. We want our kids in school. We know it's better for our students. You know, I have 2 daughters at home, both school-aged. I know they want to be back in school, but it is about health and safety of trying to balance everybody's health and safety about what that's going to look like, their mental well-being, all the things associated with that. So, you know, it is certainly right now, it is still, I don't want to call it up in the air because we've done lots of work, but we are, it's not final for us until we really come to a landing point as we get closer to the school year, and our reality, our community reality about the current status of COVID-19 and those types of things. We have a much better sense of. So we're still tweaking our plan. We're getting feedback from our community, and we're looking at how that would ultimately look in a 5-day-a-week model. We're trying to look at those things as well. So. Again, I'd like to tell you that here in early July, we're ready to go. But the truth is, we are still in the planning stage, and probably will be still in the planning stage up until we get closer to the first day of school.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Just before we get to Dr. Shealy, make sure everybody, if you wouldn't mind muting your phones, except for the speakers, that would be fantastic. Dr. Shealy, thank you again. How's Richland 2 and what's y'all's process?
Good morning. If Dr. Davis was here, he would answer that question by saying, the children are well. So appreciate being here. Bring greetings to you from Dr. Davis. As you well know, he announced last week that he was diagnosed with COVID. He's feeling a lot better, a lot stronger, but still not exactly up to par. So that's why I have the opportunity to share with y'all this morning. I want to echo everything that Dr. Witherspoon and Dr. Little has said this morning. I truly appreciate the collaboration that we've had with our Midland superintendents, because Dr. Davis has kept us in the loop of when they've met and when they've been planning and their next steps moving forward, which has really helped us in our planning. Our task force is made up of approximately 100 people. We have teachers, students. We're fortunate to have an infectious disease physician on our task force, and they're divided into 6 design teams. They have been working to put together models that would allow us to perhaps open in the most safe and efficient way in the fall. Our task force itself is divided into 4 specific areas: safety, academics, operations, and communication. And as Dr. Little and Dr. Witherspoon said, we are still planning. I have a meeting right after this. I think I have about 6 today, back to back to back, making sure that we hear everyone's voice, that we're listening to everyone, and that we're really taking into consideration every aspect of reopening. We started our parent surveys. Again, we surveyed back in early June, and we sent another survey out last week to our parents, and that survey will close Sunday. And then our staff survey went out last night at 6. And by about 9 o'clock last night, we had almost 1,000 responses. So to say this is a hot button topic and people care is absolutely an understatement. So appreciate this opportunity to share this morning and to get the word out that we're all in this together. I keep telling our people, let's just hold hands and stay together.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for that. Let's talk about, it was an interesting letter that was written by the Academy of Pediatricians. I know there was one sent to the local school districts. I guess the pediatricians' concern as we look at the fall is the well-being of kids. Are they better off with the low risk of getting COVID in a school, or staying at home and a higher risk of all the other issues that may, from a sociological standpoint, hit them, or mental standpoint? Dr. Little, thoughts on that?
Well, we've had a couple of conversations with the Children's Hospital there in Richland County. I know Dr. Witherspoon was kind enough to schedule one conversation, and we had a follow-up conversation with Lexington One with Dr. Birch, the pediatric infectious disease doctor at the Children's Hospital. And so, I think their perspective is that it's a balancing of risk factors, and that not being in school is a greater risk factor than being in school for children. And so what we're trying to do is take that medical perspective to see how it works in application to the day-to-day aspects of running a school, because as you can imagine, those two things are not necessarily aligned perfectly at first blush. And again, as I mentioned, one of the things we're really trying to understand, though, as well, is while children are not, according to their research, children are not as at risk to have COVID-19, but we do have lots of adults in the building, and they may be at greater risk. And those adults in the building will be absolutely critical to the success of this entire thing. The quality of adult in the building, where they're providing instruction, where they're providing emotional support, where they're providing all of these elements that our students need, their presence is going to be absolutely crucial. So we have to make sure that they're also in an environment that is safe and secure, and that they're in an environment that they can be comfortable and be confident about their health as well. So certainly the American Pediatrics threw a curveball, I think, into it, because I don't believe they were utilized as part of the Accelerate Ed Task Force. according to our understanding. And so it seems like sometimes schools were stuck in the middle because there are some conflicting medical information. And so we're sifting through that medical information and trying to find the best possible solution. But no, listen, I agree with the idea. I don't want to speak for Dr. Shealy or Dr. Witherspoon, but I mean, the best place for kids are in schools. I mean, I believe that in my very being. That's why we're in education. That schools are safe places. Schools are places where, our schools are one of the front line. It's where the front lines of child abuse and domestic abuse are fought. We feed so many of our communities. I mean, so many children in our communities. And so when you think about all those elements, we do a lot more than just academics. There's no doubt about it. But we're also having to balance everybody's health to make sure that this can be a success for everybody.
As a parent of 4 teenagers, let me just give a huge shout out to teachers as a whole for what they go through every single day. I think we all got a taste of reality this spring as we were trying to teach our kids and make sure they did all their homework assignments and all the things that teachers do every day. So a big shout out to the educators and to all educational professionals. But for that matter, it was a reality, and things that I think a lot of people took for granted of what happens in a school. Dr. Shealy, Dr. Little said that they may have thrown a wrench in things, but y'all have stakeholders of about 100 folks that I think you mentioned. Does the letter from the pediatricians change anything for y'all? I mean, y'all are looking at it from a broader sense as well.
Yes, sir, we are. And Dr. Little is absolutely right. This is a balancing act. And we really appreciate our medical community coming forward and helping to guide decisions and offering to help host town hall meetings and to educate our community. We really, really appreciate that. We want our children back. We want our children back. They need us. We need them. Last Tuesday night when I shared with our board, my very last slide was our why. When you take all of our goals and our defined challenge into place, our why is, for me, is a picture of a little girl at one of our first car parades that's holding up a sign that says, I want to go back to school. Every single time I see that sign, it absolutely speaks volumes to me. She wants to go back to school, and we want her back when it's safe. What we've learned from our surveys is that yesterday, the preliminary results indicate that 68.3% of our parents of middle and high school students are not comfortable or either very uncomfortable with coming back, and 67.7% of our elementary. Now, those are preliminary results. Survey doesn't close until Sunday, but we have a lot of education to do with helping our community feel safe and comfortable with coming back. And so we will be very dependent on our medical professionals to help us with that. It's very challenging to feel comfortable when it's surrounding our numbers aren't good, and when the reports that we hear aren't good. So we have a lot of educating to do, a lot of supporting to do, and we shared that last Tuesday night with our board. And when our medical professionals have now offered to help, we will certainly take them up on that as we move forward, because we want everyone to feel safe and comfortable. And as Dr. Little said, this is, we have 4,000 staff members that we also have to keep safe. 28,000 students and 4,000 staff members. And they're all our hearts and all are extremely important to us.
Thank you. I tell you, I have talked to many folks in the education profession in the last few weeks and recognize the number of challenges is almost daunting, quite frankly, the number of things that y'all have to take into consideration. And one of those things, one of the bigger issues, I think, that from a business community standpoint, granted the chamber represents businesses, is the fact that we do have 7 districts in this region. And, you know, as employers, have to wrestle with school schedules, whether to have a full functioning operation. Manufacturing needs to obviously manufacture stuff, but on a broken schedule is challenging. But you, all three of y'all have a very large number of employees that don't all live in your district either. So it's a headache for y'all. So we recognize that, but we do appreciate the fact that y'all are all meeting and talking together, because I do think the fewer number of schedules that we have would be better. It's a little cleaner, but obviously we appreciate y'all working together and doing the best you can on that. But one of the biggest challenges I think that has come out of COVID is, or at least the biggest opportunity that we have, is what Congress is talking about. Jim Clyburn's talking about it for the last couple of years. It is broadband, universal broadband, and it's a huge, not only from an education standpoint, but also for healthcare purposes as well, and telehealth. That really impacts districts like Richland One, right? Dr. Witherspoon, I mean, you are an urban and a rural district in one. Thoughts on, I saw Department of Ed said there's 16,000 kids that have not been in contact with schools since COVID began. What does that impact on y'all, and how do you reach those kids?
Yeah. First of all, certainly want to thank the efforts of our teachers, our counselors, our principals, our social workers, our family and community engagement folks. We had about 260 roughly students in that count. And that number, statewide, I think represented about maybe 1% or something to that effect. And I think they're saying absenteeism, if you will, across the state in normal times was about 2%. But any student that we can't reach or what have you is a problem, in terms of that engagement and support. But what we found through that was, at the beginning when businesses closed and those types of things, our parents had to they had to leave, if you will, and go other places. We had principals and folks going to adjacent counties, trying to reach out to other states. Have you seen this child, this family, and all? So we made it a conscious effort to continuously try to reach out and find our students. We even done, in addition to the 2 sets of surveys and one that's in progress right now, we even had all of our schools reach out to ask more questions about internet access. And as you've indicated, do you have, yes, there's fiber here in the center city, if you will, but we know we had students that and parents that did not have the access for one reason or another. We know that there are other places in Richland One's footprint that don't have the fiber. So that too becomes an issue. And I agree, from a national level, state level, and local level, we need to work on that. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen between now and the start of school, however that looks. But that outreach is so very important, and that communications, as well as having that access. And I agree, that's one thing that this pandemic has shown, is that we need to look at broadband and that type of access as something that should be more readily available. And again, how that works and all of that, the details will have to be worked through. But it does, as you said, Richland One and all of our districts, but Richland One certainly, and we consider ourselves urban, suburban, and rural. And all of those characteristics that go with that, which makes these decisions just more difficult and more complex in terms of how we educate, how we outreach and provide the best opportunities for our students. So that outreach effort continues. We want to engage our students certainly day to day and even in normal times, but certainly in this time it makes it more complex, makes it more difficult, but it makes it all the more important that we do have that outreach and connection.
Thank you. I know, just for the record, there's been no decisions from any of these three districts on exactly what the fall is going to look like. I mean, obviously, y'all are monitoring things, and things are changing or fluid. We've heard lots of different ideas thrown about as it relates to in-person versus virtual, a mix of both. When we go through those, if we can just keep it for the next round of questions, think about in-person and the dilemmas of spacing and all. I'm assuming masks are going to be required for all kids, but some of the questions we've gotten from folks are masks going to be required, and will the schools provide those masks? Thoughts on that, Dr. Shealy?
At this point, we would recommend mask. I've seen children with masks. We actually have a Boys and Girls Club in our district this summer for first responders, and those children are wearing masks and doing great. Of course, they have mask breaks during the day, but just saw some pictures of them and some video of them last week. They're skipping and jumping and playing and hopping and just being normal kids, and it was really a refreshing sight to see. Saw lots of children with masks on over the weekend with their families. The social distancing is going to be trying. I think Dr. Witherspoon mentioned that a little while ago. The sharing that I did last Tuesday night at our board meeting, I think helped our community to understand what 50% looks like on a school bus. Dr. Davis has shared that we did a practice route in the Blythewood area. That route normally for buses would have taken about 30 to 40 minutes, and it took 2 hours.
Wow.
So those are huge challenges, and I appreciate the fact that our community understands that and that they're having patience with us as we work through that. As far as supplying, yes, I believe we would supply masks, at least to begin with. I'm not sure that we could continue with that, but I'm not real sure that I'm ready to specifically answer that today. But I can assure you that we'll follow safety guidelines and everything that DHEC recommends in Richland District 2.
Great, thank you. Just FYI, Dr. Shealy, Little, and Witherspoon, I muted y'all. There was some background noise going on, so I muted y'all without y'all knowing. I apologize, but when you speak again, you're gonna have to unmute yourself, okay? Thank you for that. Dr. Little, with DHEC releasing definitions of low, medium, high spread, are there considerations that y'all are making that, are there delineations, I guess, you're making if we hit a certain point that y'all may reconsider opening in August, or is that you taking that again day by day as well?
Well, I think for us, we're still looking, it's more of a day-by-day thing at the moment, but I'd like to echo what Dr. Shealy said just real quick, if I could back up just a little bit, then go forward. We've been in, and I'll say this, I'm so thankful for our medical professionals who have reached out. We've worked with a number of medical professionals at Lexington Medical Center, as well as Dr. Daniels and Dr. Birch at the Children's Hospital. And so just very thankful for their help and guidance in this. I would say too, I think their perspective so far is that high use of mask is really the high level strategy, and it's really the strategy that will keep us safest. And so we're looking at that. We're also looking at the implications of social distancing. Even 3 feet of social distance is the DHEC start, DHEC talks and CDC talk about 6 feet of social distancing. The pediatric group talks about 3 feet of social distancing with a mask. And so we're looking at those implications right now about what that would be in the classroom, what that would be on the bus, what that would be transitioning between classes and all that stuff. I think what we're looking at right now is the idea of there's so much that has to be planned. So I try to explain it this way. So think about something we've done forever, that everybody on this call right now, if you've attended a public school, you've always done a fire drill. Well, we recognize that even next year, fire drills are going to have to look differently, and we're going to have to come up with a new plan for fire drills. And so something as small that we take for granted, like a fire drill, is also going to have to be changed and really turned on its head. So what we're looking at and thinking about is how long is it going to take us to get all of this planned before the start of school? And so we are having conversations right now about pushing the start date back. But it's really about trying to make sure we have all of this stuff together and that the plan is well thought out and is well developed prior to the start of school. So we're trying to look at what that might look like for the start of school date. And so those are conversations we are definitely having right now. But again, I would tell you that it's a fluid situation. We're trying to come up with the best plan possible, but we're going to have to stay flexible. We can't say, I don't know what today is, like July 7th or something. We can't say on July 7th, here's the plan for August, for a month from now, when look at what we knew a month previous. So what we knew in early June and what we've learned in the last month, that absolutely positively could change over the next month. So we have to think about that and have to keep that, we have to keep that in consideration, because really the truth is 3 weeks from now, our plans may be significantly different as well, based on some new information that we've come up or something we've learned about the virus. Yeah, we're trying to stay flexible. We're trying to stay nimble, but we're also trying to make sure we're grounding whatever we decide to do in the knowledge that we know now, that the best information that we currently have. That's really what our goal is.
Thank you. Dr. Witherspoon, as y'all are looking, there's a lot of challenges, and some legal and some just common sense stuff. There were a couple of questions that were sent in yesterday as well as this morning about those kids that have individual education plans, IEPs, or that learn differently. And how are y'all thinking through that process, which, depending on what the individual plan is per child, it's hard to do across the boards, but how are y'all looking at implementing IEPs?
Absolutely. Well, during the whole time, we still were able to have IEP meetings. They may have had to have happened virtually, or some accommodation, if you will, in terms of an IEP meeting. The delivery of instruction or services, if you will, outlined in the IEP in any time may have to vary and may look different, but that too is a challenge. If, for example, student needing speech or physical therapy or something to that effect. Again, how do you do that when schools are closed? How do you do that in a social distancing model and so that has to be worked out. I know hats off to all of our special education and regular education teachers and staff that have had to deal with this and continuing to deal with it. There are issues of compensatory time, all of those things that are again inherent in the IEP process and delivery of services. So that's certainly has been a consideration and will be a consideration as we look at proposals and models in going into the fall. So that too has to be incorporated into plans, and what will that look like not only for our students, but as has been indicated, staff members, and again, how all of that is integrated. But we do recognize the need to provide services and what that looks like. So that's a challenge, but we certainly have to meet those challenges as well through the IEP process.
Thank you. Dr. Shealy, it's been interesting going to different places around town, whether you get your temperature checked or whether you get a full scan going in of your temperature or core body temperature. Thoughts that y'all have had as you had your discussions on monitoring the health of the kids every day, or the temperature checks, body scan tests, that in the cards?
Back in the beginning of the summer, we were checking temperatures of people, staff members who were coming in and out. Now we have a survey that we ask them to take, us to take, be included. Did you have any of these symptoms this morning? If you did, then you need to come over here. So at this point, we're going to adhere to DHEC, and right now we have to think about the fact of how would we have 2,100 children at Spring Valley. How would we take 2,100 temperatures in a safe and efficient way first thing in the morning? So all those pieces have to be worked out. And I'm so thankful we're having this opportunity to have this discussion, because I think it helps our community. Like when Dr. Witherspoon mentioned all the nuances of special education, and when Dr. Little mentioned a fire drill. Those things, we have to think through everything with just a new way, with a different lens on. And I think it helps our community partners out there to hear all the different pieces that we have to put into place to make sure that everybody is safe and learning.
There are a lot of, the fire drill is a great one, Dr. Little. Thank you for that analogy, because I wouldn't have thought of that one. But on that, Dr. Little, we've got close to 400 people in here, and they're all wanting to know what your plan is. And obviously nobody knows quite yet what that, not singling you out. There's so much data that y'all have got to consider. What is it? I mean, because education and religion are two hotbed buds, right? Everybody's personal. Everybody's got an opinion of their own on things. In this particular case, there is a cry for going back, and then there's a cry not to go back, keep doing virtual. What is it you want folks, parents, and business community leaders to know that y'all are going through? I mean, if there's one thing that you could leave people with, saying, trust us on this, that we're going to do, what is it that you want people to know?
Well, I think my message is that we're hard at work trying to make sure we're going to provide a dynamic learning experience for our children, and to do it and to be able to maximize our face-to-face instruction while also keeping our students, our staff, and our community at large safe. That's what our goal is. And so every time we're talking about this, we have like 16 working groups working on various aspects of what going back is going to look like. And we always come back to that is our Dr. James and Shealy talked about their why. We try to really stay focused on that. We want to maximize face-to-face instruction while keeping everybody in that process safe. And, I've gotten a lot of, before we started the call, people said, man, I'm glad I'm not in your shoes, or, this kind of stuff. And I certainly can appreciate that. But I'll tell you, we're tasked and we're entrusted with this community to make these tough decisions. And we're entrusted in this community to make sure that our students are safe and their staff are safe. And we take that very seriously. And we are working diligently to make that happen. And I know, and I'm trying to read some of the chat features while also trying to pay attention. And I know there's some frustration about, well, why don't you just make a decision already? Why can't you just, make an announcement? And I'm telling you, we're working really, really hard to make sure that the plan is going to be sound. We're making sure that the plan checks out, the science checks out. We don't want to necessarily just be emotional driven. We want to be science driven. We want to be fact driven. We want to make, again, because we're doing this to make sure that our students and our staff and our community at large are safe. So I would say to them, when we talk about virtual education too, know that we're working on that. Our plan for virtual education for the fall is going to look a lot different than virtual education. Anybody who chooses that, will have looked very different than what it did in the spring. You know, what I've been talking to people about is in the spring, we just survived. In the fall, we're going to have to thrive, and we can't sit back and just say, hey, everybody, we're just going to kind of tread water and kind of make it happen in the fall. We want our children to advance. We want to nurture them. We want to support them, and we want to grow them. As opposed to what we did in the spring, was really, we responded to a pandemic, and we were in a state of emergency almost every day, trying to make sure kids were fed and all these different things, and did not know what was going to happen. So again, where we are moving forward, we're working hard every single day to make sure that our students have a dynamic learning environment come the fall, and that's where we're moving towards.
Right. Dr. Witherspoon, we've got a number of notables on this call today, some former chairs of school districts and some serving on the State Board of Education. You know, the decision from the state that came down was to leave it up to the districts to make the decision that's best for their district, which I recognize that call coming from the Department of Ed. Do you feel good about that? And are there anything that you need right now to make the best decision? Anything that you need from the state or the General Assembly other than money that you can, any guidance that you wish they had given you or that you would want from them?
Well, they've given us certainly the guidance. As Dr. Little indicated, there has been some differences in guidance, if you will, that has come as of late, and that's a balancing act. It certainly makes the decision and what we do a little more complicated. You know, we understand. I saw this morning, you know, state of Florida, they just kind of made the decision. Here's what the state is going to do. And you know, certainly that would be a different dynamic if that were to happen in the state of South Carolina. But we have to work through, again, the information that we have, the timing that we have, and again, making the best decision we can to educate our students the best way possible, given where we are, and to do that the way we can. I will echo some other points, and if you know, funding, resources, what have you, as Dr. Streetley has said. You know, if we're looking at providing masks for students, that too is going to be a huge undertaking. And how does that work? And all. So even with some type of edict and so forth, there would still be a whole lot of decisions and processes that would have to be thought through with students, with staff, with school operations and the like, that would still have to happen. So we would still be having some of these same conversations, if you will, in terms of how will these things look at the beginning of school. So we certainly understand there are a variety of perspectives, absolutely, and ours is balancing those perspectives with the science, with the information that we have, and trying to make the best decision possible. And I would ask, as several of my colleagues have this morning, you know, that, you know, we do kind of understand that, and that's why, you know, sometimes we have to move as fast as we can, but sometimes as slow as we have to try to get it right, to try to make the best decisions possible with the information that we have. So we understand the anxiety. We understand the need to as you've indicated, there are 79 school districts in this metro area, and we even do the same thing with calendars in the best of times, if you will. We kind of check with each other. Hey, when are you looking at spring break? When are you looking at these other dates and start times so that there can be some alignment. But in this case, we do the same thing now. But some of these things, again, pose a lot of challenges. So again, just recognizing the complexity that we have and as we try to work through it.
Yeah. Thank you. Dr. Shealy, tell me, there's a lot of folks are just not going to be comfortable about maybe their parents have underlying health conditions or some issue that would put them in a higher risk if kids went back. Well, is Richland 2 looking at an opt-out for those that may not wish to send their kids back to school in August?
When we first started this work, Dr. Davis charged us with two goals. One was to give our parents choices, and the other one was to come back stronger than we left. So those would have been our goals. And yes, to answer your question, I don't really know what opt-out means. I know that our parents, once we were able to go back, would have choices. And we actually put those choices on our survey that went out to them last week. 3 choices for each grade band. I don't have the results of those yet, but because our results at this point are so strong that they're not comfortable coming back. But yes, there will be choices, and I think our parents will feel really good about that. And to echo what Dr. Witherspoon just said, it bothers me too that we can't just go ahead and make a decision. As a parent, as somebody who likes to plan ahead, like people tease me that I have my agendas made for 2 years in advance. That's not really true, but they tease me about that. I want to know too, so that we can move forward. But we have to continue to really weigh everything and balance everything and hear our voices. And our surveys close Sunday. And we do have a board meeting coming up Thursday night that will share some additional information, and hopefully we'll move forward from there. But please, I would never want our community to think that we're purposefully delaying a decision. We just need to make sure that we have all of the information that we need. Many years ago, I was in a very difficult medical situation with my husband, who later passed away. And I'll always remember my son, who was at the Citadel at that point, saying to the doctor, "Sir, we just want you to care about our dad and do your best." And so I can assure you, we care about our children, we care about our staff, and we are doing our personal best to make sure that we get closest to the right decision as we possibly can.
Great. Thank you for that. All right, Dr. Little, we're closing in on the top of the hour, and there were lots of comments and stuff. Y'all have done a phenomenal job of working with the business community in Lexington One, and you also had such a robust online program. But part of any type of educational program, there's the programmatic side of things, is learning inside, and then there's the outside the classroom, whether it be athletics, whether it be working remotely and doing some entrepreneurial type of things. If a vaccine comes out in late fall, maybe winter time, do you see us getting back to a more traditional school environment next fall, or do you think that a lot of this e-learning will continue to take a life of its own?
Well, that's a great question. I would say you're probably a little bit of both, to be honest. So, if a vaccine comes out late fall, early winter, that people are able to use, that's certainly a game changer, right? And so it will allow us to, again, maximize face-to-face instruction. I think for our older students, especially in high school, they're going to like a lot more of the flexibility associated with some of the virtual learning experiences. And so I think our high school students are going to want more of that in the future. So I think you're going to see a combination. I think from earlier, the younger students, certainly getting back to more and more face-to-face instruction. And then I think as the students get older, they'll want more virtual experiences, more flexibility, more opportunity to, not just kind of this 8 to 3:30 kind of deal, but that they can have some more flexibility within that. I think our students will be interested in doing that as well. Something about athletics you talked about earlier, if you don't mind, I'd like to address that. I know there's lots of conversations about athletics. I talked about the fire drill earlier. One of the things that we're talking about now is that you have to be careful about painting everything with such a broad brush. So for example, when we make a weather call, let's say there's an ice storm. I know it's hard to believe sometimes, but I hear it's never happened since I've lived here. But let's just say, for example, it will have happened at some point in Columbia or in the Lexington area. So when you have an ice storm or something like that, what you're making an argument is that it is unsafe for one student to come to school. It is unsafe for 100. It is unsafe for 100 students to come to school, and it's unsafe for 1,000 students to come to school, right? But when it comes to athletics, what we know is that not all sports are equally at risk. Like golf or tennis or those types of things are different than, say, football, wrestling, and cheerleading and some other things. And so I hope with our athletics and our high school league, and we're really advocating for them to don't just paint everything with one brush, and let's try to parse those things out and what it might look like for every student. Because again, in a weather call, it is unsafe for any amount of students to come together. But when you're looking at outdoor sports that are already naturally socially distanced, softball and baseball, perhaps, for example, you don't have to put those in the same box as everybody else. And so it's going to take some creativity for sure to make sure athletics get off. But I would tell you that for us, athletics are also incredibly important. They connect kids to school. They keep kids mentally fit as well as physically fit. They learn teamwork, collaboration. They learn all these different things. They learn how to win with grace and to lose with dignity, and really life lessons that are really hard to create in other places. And I know as an adult, my being involved in athletics has made my life richer for it. And I think when I think about my children, my oldest child's in marching band, my youngest child plays softball and basketball. Those activities are really important to both of them and are important parts of who they are. And so we're also really trying to make sure those elements are going to be part of our schooling as well, as much as possible.
Great. Well, listen, I know time is short, and I'm a stickler for keeping it to the time, but y'all have been great. I appreciate Dr. Shealy filling in for Dr. Davis. We wish him the best in his recovery, and we appreciate you accommodating your schedule to work with us, as well as Dr. Little, who's not in his office, but took the time from vacation to be with us. So thank you very much. Dr. Wisman, as always, we appreciate you as well. Little housekeeping. We're going to have this on our website. We can send questions to y'all as well. Anybody that's looking at the chat box, you can see some contact numbers for the PIO office for the individual districts. We'll keep updating our website as well once we know what the districts are going to do. It's a big decision for parents, for teachers, for the districts themselves. It's for businesses throughout the Midlands that have employees that have kids at these schools. So thank you for what y'all are doing. We wish you the best in the decisions that you have to make. If there's anything that we can do, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. But everyone, thank you again. And to all 370 some odd that were with us today, thanks for being with us. And we look forward to doing this again. The first Tuesday of August, we'll be back here. So thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Good deal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.